My name is Dr. Philip Alexander, and welcome to the World Revolution podcast. And I'm with a very good friend of mine, Karen Complete Smalls. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, how are you?
So Karen, you're just a summary of some of what you've done in the past. You're a mother, grandmother, poet, writer. You're an artist and an actress. You're part of a group called Inspired Word Poets, which is a creative arts group based in Southeast London.
Yeah.
Love Coach of the Year. You've appeared on radio, TV, and in theatre. You have your own podcast channel with Success4. And your main focus is working with women, inspiring clients to explore, discover, and embrace their potential and passion in life.
Yeah.
You also work with offenders and offenders. And your motto is, it is very important to celebrate life, even the smallest things, no matter how significant they may seem now.
Yes.
They will be the biggest and best and greatest memories of past in the future. They will keep you going when the going gets rough and tough. Like that.
Very much so.
Where does Complete come from?
Complete.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a little bit of a story, but when I come from a corporate background, and when I took redundancy in corporate background in the corporate arena, I was starting my own business, and I wanted to have something that represented me, the service I was going to provide, and who I am. And I went into events and project management before I do the work I do now. And so my initials are KPS. So we came up after brainstorming with friends who know me, we came up with Complete Project Solutions. Now, Complete is when I'm doing anything, I want you to feel complete in the moment. I want you to feel that everything was perfected in that time. And so it followed me into the spiritual journey that I have now. So when you come to my workshops, or we work with each other as client and coach, or whatever it is, you have a complete moment with me.
Wow.
That's what it is. And complete. So complete with a K is for Karen. Yeah. So Complete.
So you've carried that name for many years now.
Yes, since 2000.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't tell you that before, did I? Oh no, I know. Yeah, since 2000.
Let me throw this question at you. This is often what I start these podcasts with. Is this podcast is all about honoring people's life purpose, and for me, life purpose is something that goes even beyond our birth. Something that perhaps we're all here on the planet to do something special to help humanity in a way. What is your life purpose?
My life purpose is to enable people to realize who they are, to fulfill their totality in life, their existence. I wouldn't say potential, because once we've reached a goal, there's always more we can do. I used to say fulfill their potential. There's no such thing as fulfilling potential. So it's about reaching beyond, realizing who you are as an individual, your value, and what you bring to this earth, and also fulfilling your purpose as an individual. So that's my life purpose, and it's about supporting people. I've been through so much in my life where I've experienced a lot of pain, trauma, many things. And how I started off as a young child, I didn't want anybody else to hurt and be in pain like I did. But I understand that we have to go through that process in life, experiencing different tragedies, trauma, and it's all relative and it's all perspective. Someone's trauma could be small in comparison to somebody else's, but trauma is trauma, pain is pain. It's about how we deal with it and how we fulfill or get through it and fulfill who we're supposed to be from those lessons learned. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Why are we here?
Why are we here? We are here to be the best that we can be. We're here to discover. We're here to discover life through our experiences, through meeting new people, and going through a process of realization and actualization.
Realization and
actualization. Can you hear me properly? I'm holding the mic up to my face so you can hear me.
Actualization. What do you mean?
Actualization is moments of completeness. Actualization is realization of who we are as spiritual beings living in a physical body. Realizing that we are connected to more than just our family. We're connected to our full environment. It's such an amazing thing. And I know you know this feeling. Actualization of, it's indescribable sometimes. You have to experience it to know it, to feel it, and to understand it.
Yeah. You actually, in your podcast, you talk a lot about consciousness and awakening. What is your understanding of that? What is what does it mean to awaken, and what is consciousness?
You threw this one at right. Okay. I would say, so let me give you a little bit of history about me. A little bit of history about me. So I lost my father when I was 11. He died from a car accident. He went home to Barbados to bury his mother, and he died the next day. But I was very close to my father. And as a child, I was always in touch with things. I could always see things, have premonitions, know what's going to happen next. And I actually saw my father's death before he actually went to Barbados and died. And we had a conversation the morning or the day before he was going, and he said to me, I'm not coming back. And he said, I know I'm not coming back. And then we talked about it. And we talked about things that was going to happen to me in the future because he wasn't going to be around. Now, growing up, I still saw many things, but I've been brought up in the church. And when I expressed myself that I could see certain things and I can prove I could see them, I was rejected as dealing with the devil. Okay. And so I kind of put aside the giftings of what I received from what I say God, the creator, the source that all it is, by being connected with that source. Yeah. And I put aside that. And I went through my life blind to that I had the ability to connect with my father and all those people I've lost in my life from a spiritual point of view. Yeah. And it's only when I returned 40 and I started the self-development journey with different people that I realized that I had that gifting to be awake, to be in touch with the spiritual elements around us as a spiritual being in a physical body, and to understand that the giftings that we all have as humans, once we connect with them and connect with the source, wasn't wrong. And as I connected with that, everything started to awaken. I started to see again. I started to understand I can actually connect with people on a different level. And I started meeting people at the same level, also awakening with me, understanding love, peace, and tranquility as a way of being as a human, understanding that our experiences that we've been through, or traumas, or anything that we've gone through in life, is all part of our learning experience and the process of being human. You asked me about consciousness. I would say consciousness is actually being aware in the moment that who we are as individuals, and coming from a place of the heart, coming from a place of love, letting go, not trying to control everything. So we often talk about people who are living in the past and they're having that pain. I remember living in the past, all I experienced was pain. And then living in the future, all I experienced was fear. What's going to happen? What's this? And my past informed my future. So I was never kind of living in the moment, accepting who I am as a person. I was thinking about the shame and the guilt of things that happened to me that was beyond my control. And you would always be fearful of, well, will that repeat itself? Now I'm centered in the sense that I understand the learning. It's not personal to me, all right? And I've learned to forgive everything that's happened to me. Yeah. And that's what I call being awakened, and consciousness is being able to forgive, realize, and learn from my experiences, and to not taking anything personal, and assuming. It's been a very hard journey, but I've had great people like Brandon and Javan and other people, helping me along the journey, because they've experienced things themselves.
How did you know? How did you see your father's passing, and how did he know that?
Okay, so I used to dream a lot about him, and I would dream that every night. I would dream that his spirit, I can see it now, the spirit, like a stick person, very dark being, used to come into our house, and my father used to fight this being all the time. And every time, so at first he used to fight and he used to go away, but then as he got weaker and weaker, I thought, something's happening here. My dad's getting weaker, and then we started getting the news of different things happening in our lives. And my father went through a process of, I now know that he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy with his life per se, which is another conversation. I don't think I'll go into it from here because it's too deep in a personal arena to do with my family. But my father was going through depression. He used to drink, and he had lots of demons. And I feel that this thing I was seeing was one of his demons. And the night that he died in my dream is the same time that he died physically in this earthly plane.
So you had a dream that he passed away, and then you knew that around that time something would happen to him.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how my father knew that I knew that that conversation we had, it was just a moment of, in the moment. You see what I mean? It wasn't like we talked about it leading up to it. It was just, it just happened. So it was like a preparation for me and an acknowledgement, maybe to prepare me, but I wasn't prepared. After he died, I grieved for him right up to my 40, to 40, I think, my 59th birthday, because I write as well. I express myself through writing and my art, as you know. And I've got a poem called 40 Years, and it was like not until my 59th birthday, 59, putting age on me now, 49th birthday, that I realised that my father was with me all the time, and I started getting messages. And this is like me starting my spiritual journey, re-engaging with who I am through my gifts of seeing and knowing and feeling. And that's when I got the messages through my writing and my art. Wow. As I'm speaking to you, a lot more things are falling into place, and I didn't really acknowledge that part of the journey, so to speak, as I'm doing now.
You mentioned you had these gifts. You could see things and people in the
Mm-hmm.
church. What were
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that you were experiencing?
So I would think of something or see something, and it would happen within minutes or 5 minutes, or things that people negate. You know, you're thinking about a loved one and they call you, or you want something and it turns up, or the right person comes along and gives you that thing. But I would actually see it quite vividly, where I'll be sitting somewhere and I'll say, oh, so and so's about to ring the phone, or so and so's about to knock the door. I used to speak it out, and it'd be like, where's that coming from? You know? And so I started to hide things. I wouldn't speak it. I wouldn't talk about it. My son is like that as well, where he would say something and it happens. But he's not that open about it.
What was the turning point in your life, you would say?
Turning point with regards to what?
Becoming a spiritual leader, or a spiritual coach, or what you were embodying today. I know that would have, that's hard to sort of point out, because over the years you just sort of become like that. But is there
Yeah.
any major turning points in your life, apart from your father's passing, that triggered you into this spiritual awakening or realization of your purpose? And
I started to engage more with people who were seeking. That's what it is. I started to follow my leads. So I started listening to self. I started to be still, and it'll point me to a direction of, well, why not go to this conference? Why not do go and listen to this speaker? So I started my journey with in self-development with the Wealth Dragons. And then from there, I started meeting new people. I actually experienced Tony Robbins and Andy Harrington a good 20 years ago.
wow.
I think it was. But I didn't follow up on it. You know, it's like reading that book how many years, and then you just thought doesn't click until it needs to click. Yeah. And I didn't follow up on it in the sense that doing the work I'm doing now. I always integrated certain things into workshops or dealing with people in my corporate life, but not actually focusing on the spiritual journey and the spiritual enlightenment, and people fulfilling their potential and engaging with them on a spiritual level with regards to healing and helping them get through their traumas and pain. So that all happened like about 2-3 years ago, when I met Javan Langford. I've written one of my postings recently was about the pain I felt when he called me out, as in like, you need to stand in your truth. And that's where I met Brandon as well. And that emotional pain of realizing that I'm the one that's holding myself back, all those excuses about, you know, the abuse, the rapes and things that I'd been through, which I haven't spoken about. I speak about some of them in don't think I do it in my podcast, in my workshops, because those are the women that I deal with on a more regular basis through their trauma. I was like feeling sorry for myself, but when I realized that it's just something that happened, I need to deal with it. If I want to help other people, I have to learn to forgive myself, understand the process, and move beyond the excuses of poor me. This is not happening because of that. I'm not worthy. It's actually dealing with the self-love, building up my courage to face who I am and my potential as a human being because of the experiences I went through, and knowing that I can show myself compassion and love. I was always showing compassion and love to others, but never to myself. But when I engaged with showing myself compassion and love, that's when the spiritual journey really blossomed and things are happening.
Do you mind like speaking about that, your sexual abuse, that had how did that happen?
Okay. I've actually spoken about it on Facebook, so I'll speak about it here. Right? So one of the things that I think my father was talking about when he said to me that he's not going to be around and men are going to approach me and things are going to happen to me. He didn't go into it because I was only 11. He said I have to take care of myself. And I know now that's what he was warning me about. So whoever he was at that time, in that moment, they were preparing me for the journey I was about to take. So my father was only 35 when he died. And so my mum was, I think she's about a year older than him. So she's a young woman, very attractive, still is. She's just turned 80 and people are like falling down to the ground when they say, no, she can no way be 80. But she had different people come into the house and different, she's trying to feel her way. She, as she says, she still had her needs, that sort of thing. But some of the people that she brought into the house had other agendas, and some of them were just friends. So there were different people, and I felt. But to be honest, the abuse started before my father died. I never told anyone about it because I knew what my father was like. If he knew certain things would happen to me as a child, I think it happened about 7 or 8. A particular abuser came into my life, but let me go back a bit. Sorry, this is on my spiritual journey. I went through a process of restoration, and by revisiting past life or my life within from an early age, a memory of abuse that happened to me at age of 2 came up, and all of those things that I'd buried had come alive, and I could actually feel it, see it. I didn't understand. Growing up, there was a certain smell that used to make me feel sick, and that certain smell came from that 2-year-old experience. Going forward now, from the age of 7, 8, before my father died, there was a particular person who used to I just wanted to have control over me, I believe. And in that control, they put... So this is I feel a bit difficult. It's a bit difficult, sorry. Okay. To be honest, that abuser was always... it was always oral abuse, as in, like, when I say oral sex abuse. But they used to perform on me rather than me doing it to them. Do you see what I mean? So from the age of, like, I would say 7, 8, I knew what a sexual orgasm was, but I didn't know what it was. I knew the experience. I knew what it felt like. And you don't know as a child then whether it's something normal or not. But then you think, well, why is this happening the way it happened, in the darkness, the creeping, that sort of thing. So you kind of maybe it is naughty or something like that. But then things like that started to progress with different people. So that attention that you got as a child and that awakening of sexual senses becomes a norm for you. When you do realize it's not right, and you start protecting your perpetrator because you know that the family members or people around you would actually cause them harm, if you see what I mean. Does that make sense?
Uh, why would you care if family members would cause them harm if this person was?
As a child, you don't want to get people in trouble, yeah.
Right.
And if you've had loss in your life, you don't want to cause any more pain for anybody else, and then you start taking on that guilt as the shame as you get older and you realize what's happening. And then the conversations that your perpetrators have with you, if you say anything, if you do anything, then everybody else was going to get in trouble. This is what's going to happen. This is going to be the consequences. And by that time, I was lost in all of it. I started as a teenager. I would maybe drink to numb the pain because I knew that things was going to happen then to me, to numb what was happening to me.
And do you find this, because you work with a lot of women that go through similar experiences? What kind of work do you do with them to help them heal this?
To get them to understand that they are not at fault. They didn't ask for it. And by letting it continue is a place of fear. You get frozen in the situation of not understanding what will happen in the future. If you're not supported, as an individual, where you can go and speak to your parents or somebody about what's happening to you, then you feel like you have nowhere to go. My mother was going through her own kind of grief, and as I got older, we had a traumatic, turbulent relationship where she didn't talk to me. She accused me of things, and where I wanted to go and speak to her, she would then say, well, you look like a whore, or you look like this, or you're acting like that. And I'm thinking, well, I can't tell you about what's happening to me because I started to take on that label. It's funny, with the ex-offenders that I work with. So some of them are ex-offenders and some of them are offenders on unspent licensing, yeah? And quite a few of them I deal with are in for sexual offences. And one person in particular, his mother took in a lodger, but the person was very charming, and he kind of persuaded the family that it was okay that he can stay in the boy's room. And from that time, he was raping the boy, and he tried to tell his mother. And when he tried to tell his mother, she said, don't be stupid, and hit him round the head. You're being an idiot, whatever, and rejected him in that way. And so he felt that he couldn't express himself, and so he continued to go through that abuse because no one would believe him. Yeah. I had the conversation with my mother with regards to my abuse just before my last birthday. I said I can't continue by not having this conversation with her. And I told her what was happening for me and what happened to me. And she was more concerned, I suppose, about and who, and did this person do it, because there were so many different people coming into the house. And I think that she was upset that she felt that she didn't protect me or the way she should have done. She felt that by calling me names and saying, go and cover up, as a child that, you know, it's summer and I'm not allowed to walk around in shorts and t-shirt and things like that. She felt like calling me those names and saying that was the answer, and I'll go and cover up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you go through that not knowing where to go, who to speak to, and so you take it on your shoulders. And even as a child, a teenager, or even a grown person, if you're going to feel that you're going to be rejected and people are going to judge you for things that have happened to you, the shame and the immense pain of it, that's why people don't speak up about what's happened to them. Rape victims don't speak up about what's happened to them, whether you're female or male, because it's about the perception of how somebody else is going to perceive you, or what they're going to say about you, what they're going to think of you. And you realize, you know, the spate of people coming forward and saying, you know, the Me Too campaign is because they're no longer alone. They realize, oh my God, this was happening to my neighbor, or this was happening to my cousin. Actually, this was actually happening to my sister or my brother. But the way they get you, the perpetrators get you, is by isolating you and feeling that it's only you it's happening to.
So you managed to turn this around to empower you, in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, what are some breakthroughs that you've had with your clients going through this?
Okay, so I have a couple of clients who have been suicidal, who were sabotaging themselves by going back into relationships that were abusive and physically, mentally, and sexually, because they didn't think they were worthy of anything better. And it's about forming a relationship and letting them understand that no matter what your past is, as long as you're breathing, as long as you're here on this earth and there's breath and the source of God going through you, you are worthy. You are not your history. We mustn't let that define us. We have so much that we've gone through that we can share with others. We can actually save people before it's happened to them. But it's about recognizing who you are as an individual, loving who you are, understanding that you are pure love. No matter what's happened to you, you are pure love. And it's about deciding to live in love and be love.
Do you believe in the idea that we've lived beyond, you know, through different lifetimes, past lives, reincarnation, and that sort of thing?
You're asking? Yes, I do. It's funny. There's part of my history that I haven't told you. Yeah. So growing up in the church, I told about God, the Trinity, Jesus, this thing about you're a sinner. So all of that actually holds you hostage, in the sense that you're not seen as worthy of love because you're a sinner and things that's happened to you. Okay, so in growing up in the church, I've always wanted to prove that I'm a good person, get that forgiveness from the outside source of God, Jesus, everybody else judging. Do you know what I mean? And in that, I then became a commissioned minister within the Church of England.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you go down that route of always being subservient to your incumbent, the priest above you, and the church above you, the institution above you, and so that holds you captive. Sorry, my church friends will be really upset with me, or the people they'll say, "Oh my God, she's a backslider. She's a backslider. That woman's a backslider." But no, I've become aware, awakened, and conscious that God is pure love. Yeah. And that once we get in touch with that pure love and know that God is the creator of all that is, creates everything out of love, everything that happens is out of love, and we have the free will to either connect with that or to follow a different path, And I've forgotten what you just asked me because I've gone on a different train of thought. So remind me, take me back, take me back. What did you say? What did you ask me?
It was just with past lives, like.
Okay, yes, right. So past lives. So in that, the work that I've been doing, so I've done theta healing, I've done restoration, and doing the integrated self-training with Brandon. I am now in touch with why things happen to me, and I've gone through a process of regression and going through, like, looking at my past life, and I've seen myself as an individual and understand why, as a young girl growing up, her name was Annabelle.
Right.
I pictured her, and what she went through. She was a very happy child, but then she went through a trauma of loss, losing her husband who was killed and murdered, and the pain and what she felt. And there's different experiences in that life that I can equate to the feelings and emotions that's happened to me in this life that I hadn't resolved.
Right. So would it be true to say that the things that you've been through in this life is stuff that you've carried from other lifetimes, perhaps to learn lessons from?
Most definitely, and also, just going deep now. When you look at your soul family, your ancestors, the people around you, the repeat patterns of maybe lack or abuse or things like that, that I'm hoping, or I feel that I would have broken that connection with regards to the abuse that's run through the family, the feeling of unworthiness or striving to prove yourself in a way. Yes.
Would these be like feelings or emotions that have been carried through your family as well, like through your parents? Were they emotions that your parents were carrying? And because to my understanding, when we become, in a sense, or the things that we manifest in life come from the things
Mm-hmm.
we learn when we're born, just from the environment we're in, usually
Yeah.
carried over from different
Yeah.
generations.
I know that we are informed by our environment, from our family beliefs, traditions. We all are. I was having this conversation within my sessions with the guys yesterday, and we were talking about bias and racism, and some of the guys in the room were saying, well, we don't want to get involved with other cultures because we don't know about it. It's not what we've known, and we haven't been told that. We've always done things a certain way, and that's my understanding from my mother or my father. And then again, when we look back at ancestral history, if someone believes that a different culture is not worthy, let's put it that way, not worthy of their culture, that will be passed down. That will be indoctrinated in them. That will be taught within their how they eat, sleep, breathe. You don't eat that because we don't know what that muck is. We don't know what this is. We don't know. No, you can't dance that way because that's worshipping something else. That's, so I mean, it's not about it's not about connecting with one another. It's about fear, isn't it? Fear, control, and staying within your tribe. Can you imagine what it'd be like if the whole world said, yeah, we're all one tribe, we're all one love, we're all unified through God the Creator, the Source, Mother Nature. Could you imagine?
That's the plan, I believe.
That's why I threw it in there. Yeah.
So you're how did you become an actress? And you're quite the artist as well, and a poet. Like what?
Okay, so an actress in the sense that no, I'm not in Hollywood or anything else like that. But I've always acted in school. I've always written poetry. I've always drawn, and I think it's a way of escapism of being the person, the individual who's going through the trauma, the stress, that sort of thing. And so by being in plays or theatre or that sort of thing, you can live a different life. You can change your reality. You can paint the picture how you want to paint it. It's funny because I deal with actors now who, when they present for a role, they present as their alter ego. And when someone says to you, be yourself, they find it hard. There's a particular famous actress within the UK who came to a session. They had written something personally, but couldn't read it in her normal voice. She could only read it by being someone else. Yeah?
Right.
But to read it as herself, she didn't feel worthy. She didn't feel connected, even though it had come from her, even though she'd written it. It was her most deepest thoughts, most deepest pain. And actually to get her to read it as her normal self was a challenge. It took a couple of sessions to do that.
So would you say that a lot of actors go through a lot of psychological issues? Because I would imagine that that's what you would get it. You'd be playing all of these different roles, and then you'd sort of who you are in a sense.
Yeah, I believe so. They can beg to differ, but I believe so. Yeah, that some actors, when they're doing their research, they actually throw themselves into the character. They start eating like them, they start dressing like them, they start speaking like them in order to make it believable. Yeah. And could you imagine that maybe some of them do lose the essence of who they are?
There's a friend of mine who's an actor, and he's quite spiritual, and his way of acting is like if he was to play a character from the past, like Abraham Lincoln, he would connect with the energy of Abraham Lincoln and start to embody it in a sense.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
So what does that tell us? That we can actually connect with people. Again, we can connect with people who passed. I can. There's so many things that I do that my grandmother would have done. So many things that my son does that my father would have done, but my son has never met my father.
Yeah, I believe that too. I would say that perhaps like every few generations, every maybe 2 to 3 generations, people that are passed on can reincarnate through your kids or your
yeah, I believe that so much. I really do. Yeah.
Can I ask you about the 4? There's something that I saw in your podcast, and
the 4 agreements.
The 4, is that what 4 traits of power in people? Would that be?
No, not really. It's a book that also changed the course of how I think and how I do things, and it's by I'm thinking. Yes. You got it.
I do. Yeah.
Miguel Ruiz. Yeah. Oh, did you get it?
Right. Yeah. This is.
Right. Okay. So right. So with the 4 agreements, the first, once you get past the old language of black magic, white magic, and all that sort of thing, right? The actual message is so real, so important, and you can tell from that it's actually very relevant, no matter what generation, what age, what time, what year. It's the 4 fundamental what I'd say philosophies to stand by. So the first agreement is be impeccable with your word. Be impeccable with your word to yourself. So in other words, often people say, oh, I'm so stupid, I'm so dumb, I'm not worthy, I hate myself. Once we can reverse that and be impeccable with our word, as in build ourselves up, know who we are, understand the position that we play in this role as a human being, of someone of self-worth, and that's worthy of love, and being loved and giving love, right? All things, everything else doesn't matter. Okay. The second agreement is do not take anything personal. We quite often create a story about ourselves because of our past, because of what we've been saying to ourselves, talking ourselves down, and what we've been hearing others say about us. Yeah. So we build up a story of someone is treating me that way because they know my past, even though you haven't talked about it, because you're wearing your past, you're walking in that lifestyle, or you're walking with that premise. I always say to the guys, what book cover are you wearing? Are you wearing the book cover of an ex-offender, or are you wearing the cover of a human being that has done their time and deserves a second chance?
Clean slate.
A clean slate. Yeah. But in that, we don't take things personal, but in taking things personal, we judge. That's the word, judgment. So when we judge ourselves, we quickly judge others. Yeah. So we judge people on the perspective of how we view ourselves. Yeah. But if we view ourselves as people who are worthy, and you're standing in love and whatever, that's how you will conduct yourself elsewhere. The third agreement is do not assume. Do not assume that you know what somebody else is going through. Do not assume that they're thinking this particular thing because of what you've experienced. Actually judge the moment or the person in the moment for who they are, and not from what somebody else has said. I would say that when my mother's angry, she says things about people, or even myself. And in the past, people have looked at me and judged me on my mother's perspective of what I haven't done for her, or what I don't do for her emotionally, or what she's expected me to do, even though I believe that I show her unconditional love all the time. But because she hasn't dealt with whatever's going on for her, she is lacking in that self-love. Sorry, Mum, just saying it as it is. That's a conversation we still need to have. I thought it was the abuse conversation that we needed to have, but it's really about self-love and self-worth that we need to talk about. The fourth agreement is do your best at the first three, because we're all human. We all have the experience of past. We all have that fear of what's going to happen in the future, how people are going to judge me. But once we can actually work with those first three agreements, and just be what I'm trying to say is present, aware, conscious of who we are as spiritual beings. Yeah. And our learnings is just all part of the process of life. Then nothing else matters. Once we're coming from this heart energy and the love and the source that runs through us, and how we connect with everybody else, then we see our lives start changing. We start giving. When we start feeling love, we start giving love, we start feeling love. Yeah. And receiving love unconditionally. There's this what do people perceive love to be? Yeah. Some people perceive love as it's okay. He can hit me or she can hit me or not cook for me, because at least she's showing me attention. That's all the love I deserve. What I'm talking about is the pure love of source, love, energy, and life, of just being, no matter who we are, being accepted as individuals, no matter what we've gone through, and just being.
I was listening to a few of your podcasts, and I found like it was just really healing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your podcast. They were pretty awesome.
Thank you. Are you going to share them then?
Yeah. What are you still doing?
Do you know what? With the last few months, I haven't done any. I was just thinking, I just looked at the time, my next client has just arrived. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, don't worry. Hold on a second. Can I just ask you to hold a second? Yep. Thank you. Sorry, my dear. Yeah. So I'll have to. Yes. But you asked me a question. I can't remember what the question was. Oh, yeah, about the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can find the podcast on success4.co.uk. That's I'm a coach on their platform, but I will be releasing new podcasts soon, along with some artwork and my poetry. So you've heard of my poetry on the podcast.
Yeah,
I have it, I think,
as well. I mean, we haven't
thank you
spoken about that, but there's some, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I hope I was clear in what I was speaking about, because a lot of emotion, feelings, I go on energy and feeling. Even when I'm in a session, I say to people, do you want to hear about me, or do you want to experience me? And I'm so happy when they say, I want to experience you, because it's about experiencing, to know it, to feel it, to understand it, to have that shift and to know what's happening.
Thank you so much, Karen, for doing this podcast with me. Can I ask you if there's a final message that, based on the interview that we just had, that viewers can take away? What would it be that you would give them?
The final message will be, know who you are by engaging with yourself, engaging the inner love, engage with your passion, engage what makes you happy. Don't worry about what other people think. As long as you're not hurting anybody else, know that you are worthy of all things, and you can do all things. You can do all things through love, as the saying goes. Yeah, and actually sit still to listen to yourself. Sit still to connect with the source that is. Connect with the universe. Connect with Mother Nature. Sit still without being fearful. Let go. Just drink it all in and know that you are worthy and you are love.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Yeah.
I'll let you go to your next client, but yeah.
Okay.
So much love to you, and again, thank you so much for doing this.
And I'm sending so much love to you too, and I'm hoping that we will meet in person very, very soon.
Too, fingers crossed. Yeah.
We're putting it out to the universe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm sending you a happy ripple. Okay.
Thank
a happy
you.
Ripple.
Yeah.
So can you feel it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in your post there's always happy Ripple.
Yeah, happy Ripple. We are the gems at the center of a happy Ripple. Once we choose to be happy, laughter, to live life as we are, knowing that we are worthy, that's all we're going to send out. That's all we're going to emanate. That's all we're going to illuminate. We're going to illuminate other people's lives, touch people's lives in that way, with pure love, understanding, because we now know how to understand ourselves. Yeah, that's another message. I better go.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, speak soon. Bye.